So now we're going to begin looking at the cell, and more specifically the organelles of the cell. Remember, organelles are smaller parts or like organs of the cell. So organelles are smaller than the cell. And so you are looking at a very generic animal cell model that we have in lab, and this will be the one that will be on your practical. And so the difference between an animal cell and a plant cell is that plant cells have an extra cell wall. So this is an animal cell. And animal cells have a border that goes around that determines what can come and go inside the cell. And so this right here is known as the plasma or cell membrane. Either word is acceptable, so cell or plasma membrane. And it's going to determine what can enter and leave the cell. I'll say controls what enters and leaves. Very important. So we'll learn in lecture, much more complicated. It's going to have that hydrophilic and hydrophobic lipid bilayer, and we'll see that it has some proteins and things in it. So we'll go in more detail in a lecture. So that white boundary is the cell or plasma membrane. So as we continue around, we're going to notice all this gray stuff that's surrounding all the other organelles, and so I'm going to label that one up here. So everything inside of the cell membrane, excluding the nucleus here, everything else is being held together or is known as the cytoplasm. So the cytoplasm really is everything. More specifically, the jelly-like substance that is holding everything together is the cytosol. So I'm going to put with cytosol. Cytosol is the jelly-like substance. They redefined cytoplasm a few years ago. So all this gray stuff you can call cytoplasm. It does have cytosol, which is the liquid part in it. And the job of that is just basically to hold everything together, hold the other organelles in place. All right, as we move, let's go ahead and address this big guy here in the middle. And so I would definitely like you to look at that in lab so that you'll know that it's different, because it's hard for you to see here. When you look at it, you're going to notice that there's this white structure on the outside that you can't see very well because of the picture I took of it. And then you can see the yellow, and then there's a red center here. So I'm going to point to the white part. It's got little holes in it. If I were to spin this model around, you would see it. So this is the white thing. This is called the nuclear membrane or the nuclear envelope. Nuclear membrane. It's just kind of like the cell membrane. So this is an outer part of the nucleus, or if you prefer, nuclear envelope. Either one's correct. Some of you may have heard one or the other. And just like this controls what can come and go in the cell, this is going to control what goes in and out of the cell, the nucleus, excuse me. Controls what enters and leaves. My thing is saving, so I'm going to have to. So just like the cell membrane controls what enters and leaves the, I should put cell down here, the nuclear membrane or envelope controls what enters or leaves the nucleus. It's got tiny little holes in it called nuclear pores that certain things can go in and out. So this whole structure, so if I said the entire structure here, this is known as the nucleus. And the nucleus is the control center of this cell, so it controls the information of the cell. It's like the boss. It has all the blueprints and everything for the cell. This is also where your DNA is located. So your DNA is located in the nucleus. So your chromosomes are all balled up inside there, which is what the gray is supposed to be kind of illustrating there. Now the red ball is different, and so the little red ball area there, that is specifically known as the nucleolus. That is the my pen does not want to write, the nucleolus. So the nucleolus has a really important job, and it's making these little round dots here that we're seeing here and here. They make ribosomes. And we'll talk about this process in lecture, but these ribosomes are being made inside the nucleus, and they leave the nucleus and they get out into through the nuclear pore, and they get on this blue highway looking thing known as endoplasmic reticulum. And those ribosomes eventually are going to make proteins for this cell. Alright, as we move on, let's go ahead and talk about this blue highway looking thing here. This is called the rough endoplasmic reticulum, but you may just call it the rough ER. The reason it's rough is because it does have these what we call attached ribosomes on it. So all of this is the rough ER, and basically it is like an underground transportation tunnel for the ribosomes. So it's a transportation tunnel for the ribosomes. So the ribosomes, the little dots, will get made here, and then they've got to get out into the cell, and that is how they do that. Alrighty. So while we're doing this blue thing here, if you'll notice there's one in this model. There are many others on a cell, but there's one in this model that's also blue, but it doesn't have the dots on it. And so this is what we call the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, or smooth ER. And the smooth ER is going to have a completely different function. It makes and stores lipids and steroids. Okay, and it also does some detoxing things. So let's go ahead and let's see. I've not left myself. I should have put this one there. So I should have done that one next, but I'm doing this little orange peachy looking circle here. It's just a round structure. I could have easily said it was that one, but I'm going to say we're going to label this one. And this is known as a lysosome. The term lyse means to destroy. So lysosomes destroy. They help break down unwanted material. So they destroy unwanted material. Because it lyse, and it also breaks down like food, and it helps recycle like dead parts of the cell, such if you have a mitochondria or some part of the cell that's not functioning anymore, the lysosomes will help break that down, destroys unwanted material and break down food. How about that? I'll just put stuff because there's a lot of stuff it breaks down. Alright, so then we've got these little dots. These are the ribosomes. I taught high school biology, and I had one young lady, she says, can I say ribosomes? Because if I say ribosomes, I'll remember ribs are meat and meat are protein, because these guys make protein for the cell. Proteins are made of a bunch of amino acids, so they'll take the amino acids and put them together in a certain pattern and make specific proteins for the body. All right, let's see what else we got. We've got a few more. So we got these orange things. This one is whole. These have been halved. So this thing and all these, I don't know what we get tagged. So it depends on who tags. But all these are called mitochondria, and different cells have different amount of mitochondria depending on their purpose. And different people have different mitochondria. Mitochondria make ATP energy for you. And I do want ATP in that. Make ATP energy for the cell. So that's how we're going to get. So that's doing that cellular respiration. We'll learn all the steps of cellular respiration. All right, we got one last thing, last but not least. It is this weird smushy looking thing, also with these little balls here, and that is one that has moved itself over here. This is part of the Golgi apparatus. I'm going to go like that, I guess. So Golgi body or Golgi apparatus. Most of you will put body, but that's fine. It's named after Mr. Golgi. I am fine with Golgi body. And so what that's going to do is the proteins that these guys are making, sometimes they need to get shipped out. So it's kind of like UPS for if you needed to ship a package to New York or something. The Golgi body will take the proteins that these guys are making and ship it to another cell. So they package and ship out proteins. Okay, that is all the parts of the cell that you need to know for lab. They'll be a little bit more in depth for your lecture class.